So now that I've started to think like an engineer, I noticed very quickly that not every day is about building or improving. And I spend a lot of my time just maintaining, adjusting, and observing what happens, which a lot of the time to me can feel like a painfully slow death. I used to see it as a very bad thing in the sense that I didn't feel any progress. I didn't feel like things were improving, that I was building anything. And now I understand that it's probably one of the most important phases in the process, especially with things like trading, for example. I can tell you that during building these EA bots, about 10% of it is the creation element in terms of the coding aspect and loading it onto the platform. And then 90% of it is just analyzing the data and then adjusting based on what you've understood from the data. And it's just a non-stop cycle of observation, adjust, maintain. Observe, data, analyze, adjust, maintain. And a lot of the time, you're not building, you're just collecting information, which, you know, it drove me insane at the start, if I'm being honest. But this is where the engineer mindset came into play. I started to see results as purely just data. Before, if, something bad didn't work out, I took it personal. I saw it as a loss. You might beat yourself up about it. You start to feel you don't want to go through this again. But now it's like, okay, that didn't work out. That's data. Collect it, take it back to the archives, keep observing. Then when the time comes, compare it. Have you collected enough data? Is there enough times that something's happened? If not, you keep observing. If yes, that's when you analyze and you think, okay, maybe it's time to adjust. And that's when you start to build. You actually create something. And that building and creation it's a great feeling, to be able to achieve something, to put something together, to build something. You get that dopamine hit very quickly, something that you want to keep doing. But then comes the real part again. Once you've created, you then have to put what you've created back into the system. It now has to operate here. And most of the time, it doesn't always work out the way you want it to work out straight away. So this is where the patience comes in, the part which I wasn't so great at, in the sense that you're now back to maintaining, observing, and collecting data. And that phase can take so long sometimes, weeks, months, depending on what you're doing. Some people, they're going to be analyzing, collecting for years before they are able to make that real progression. And I feel like that's where a lot of people stop. It might have been where I've stopped something in the past because it feels slow, it feels boring, it feels like nothing is happening. There's no sense of momentum. You're just observing. But that's where I'm realizing the real understanding comes from. Not in the excitement of starting. The excitement of starting something. You have adrenaline flowing through you. It's easy for me to start something. But the understanding comes through maintaining and observing. that's where the patience comes in. I respect that phase a lot more now. I respect the maintenance, the observation, and the data collection, because that's what allows the progression. And I'm still learning in regards to patience. It's still one of my weak points, but I'm forever learning.